Let's welcome our next speaker, Céline Riemenschneider. She's an old friend, and I'm really happy to introduce her because she was one of the first speakers I hosted a long time back when I was working for some other company. And she said this herself that it's not very easy to get her surname correctly. And I did it in one go. So I was really happy to do that. So Celine, she is the marketing and community consultant. Celine builds and scales community programs that turn engagement into measurable impact. With 10 plus years of experience across B2B and tech, she has led community and marketing initiatives at Canva, Yelp, and a global shaper of the WEF. She founded the Community Mentor, helping professionals launch and grow thriving communities, and co-runs Mysil Consulting, combining marketing with hospitality expertise. Celine is also an abstract painter and creative at Atelier Celine, blending strategy with artistry in everything she does. And having seen a few of her arts on Instagram, she's really amazing. And if she, I don't see it yet, but if she does share it, it's going to be really, really awesome. Welcome, Celine. Welcome to welcome to Lou.
Thank you, Akash, for the great introduction. I couldn't introduce myself better. You have really wrapped up everything in it. I'm really excited to be here, of course, and talk with you guys over the empathy framework that I developed. And it really is about, leading with heart and implying this empathy framework for having thriving communities. Without further ado, I want to get started. It's a tight packed schedule today with so many great people hosting sessions, of course. And let's dive right in and try to understand really why empathy matters. Because at the end of the day, I think anyone can really launch a forum, a Slack space, host an event or something. But when it really comes to building a community, it really means creating a place where people feel seen, they feel supported, they have a safe space where they can have conversations with each other. And that all starts with having empathy. And the way it started with this framework for me was, it was at a time in the community I was actually managing, and a member had a little bit of issues back and forth with the company, and they kind of reached out to support, and support did not give them the support that they should have been getting, because it was to them like just a ticket and just a number. And they didn't see like the human aspect behind it. And I actually stood up a lot for this community member. And I think the difference there in community and then a support in that sense was, it's not just a number. And I know we have lots of community members, but it does matter that we have empathy with them and we care for them and try to understand what they're struggling with and make sure that we help them as much as we can if it's in our power. And through that very significant situation that I had, I developed this framework, and that's why I want to share it with you all to understand what each letter stands for. So the empathy framework is, first of all, of course, starting with, engaging, because it is very important. Every single community stands on engagement. So improving loyalty and contribution through engaging activities is, of course, key to having a thriving community with lots of great conversations. But of course, it would be nothing if we did not measure it, because at the end of the day, whether it's just, let's say, a hobby community we're running for ourselves or an actual really, business-driven community, we do want to measure and, track quality contributions and see the health of our community by setting the right metrics. And it might be a little bit different for every community, but I think at the core, there are certain metrics that do stay the same. P stands for personalization, and I think this really is key in a community to try as much as possible to kind of personalize your messaging and communication with members, to make it be authentic and try to tailor it. I know that sometimes we send out, mass emails or mass new member welcomes, of course, that can't always be super personalized, but I think we can try to make it far away from generic and try to make it as authentic as possible. And that does drive conversations easier, of course, than just having a random message from someone. Advocates are, of course, at the core of each community. If you look at a bullseye, we always say the advocates are, at the center, and then you have your community members. So these are really, I always like to say, the creme de la creme. It's about finding your members that are, great ambassadors, that advocate for your community and kind of carry the torch on your behalf. And then T stands, of course, for target, because we have to, I think, have a clear target group in mind when we launch a community, especially, but also during the process of managing your community that you have. You need to really know, like, what is my ideal target group? What kind of people do I want to be in my community? And the outcomes I want for them and from them should really be set before anything that you do for your community, of course. Second to last is and the health is really to make sure to check in on time to time and not just look at the business aspect of things and to see if you're getting your numbers right and there's some engagement going on, but to really check in on the health of your community. Like, you can use feedback tools for this, see how people feel about things. Are they struggling with something? Are they happy? Is there something that can be worked on and made better? So the health really is important to check on it on time to time and not when it's too late, of course. And last but not least, I think the most key and important factor is the Y of empathy stands for you. And with you, I mean the community manager or whatever job title that may be that is actually behind the community, as we know, is the person that really is on a day-to-day basis, really openly talking with the community, the kind of, storefront, let's say, that community, the person they go to. Since all ties are connected to you, the health, the advocates and everything coming from you, you really need to, of course, take care of yourself as well. Now I want to take a little bit of a deep dive. I know we don't have time to dive into every single one of these points because it would go over time. So I thought about kind of picking 3 points to kind of talk about it a little bit more, to understand what it exactly means and how you can implement this for your community as well. Number 1, I picked personalization. And I think, personalizing is super important because people feel seen, they show up more fully when you personalize something, because we all know we live in a noisy world, and at the end of the day, personalization is really what turns a member into a human connection. The way you can do this is, of course, through strategic follow-ups. You can have personalized outreach, which kind of demonstrates genuine interest and helps new members feel welcome and valued. And with this, I mean, as an example, I did this for a while too. It depends how big your community, of course, is and if this is doable. But I added, as a part of the new member welcome message, a link to my Calendly, and you can, of course, block out certain times. You don't have to have your entire calendar maybe open, and say, hey, if you have, any questions, or you just want to grab a coffee, a chat, anything on your mind before, get started and get going with this community, this is my calendar. Take a look at it. You can book you can choose for yourself if it's a 15-minute or 30-minute talk, of course, they can have with you. And gives them kind of the feeling of knowing, okay, there's a real human behind this, number 1. And I think number 2, to be like, oh, okay, she actually shares her time with us to make us be really seen and be heard. Or even if it's just about having a coffee chat, it's a human connection that you have there. And I think this makes people really feel quite valued. But I had also an example at a community where this was not possible because it was just so many members coming in. This is, of course, like, hundreds and thousands of members I'm talking about in such a large community. Of course, I don't think the one-on-one calls all the time might not be possible. And the way I personalized it then was I actually added a video into the personal welcome message. And with the video aspect, they at least see you have a short, it can be 30 seconds or up to 60 seconds. Anything that's too long, we all know attention spans decrease, but having that video added really made people answer back to me and to the welcome message, because they saw, oh, there's a real person that's actually, saying hi to me and greeting me and took the time to record this video. So you can work out whatever works best for your community and for the size of it, of course, that you have. But honesty and authenticity really is the key behind this as a driving factor. And then, as I mentioned, advocates are, of course, at the core of every community. And that's why it's very important, I think, to find those members, and to turn members really into champions. And the why behind this is that communities really thrive and members feel empowered to lead and not just to follow. But we also know that it's not for everyone. Some people are just there to be normal members, have conversations, or we have lurkers in every community. We accept them as a part of it. But there's people who do want that, to be seen and to have this title as well. And how do you find these members? And for that, I have a kind of, model too on specific member types, which can help you to kind of spot the advocates that you have in your community. Number one, I say, is always the influencer. And with these member types, I have to add this too. You might have all 4 member types in your community. You might just have 2 of them too. You have to see. You're lucky if you have all 4 member types, because then I think you can find even more advocates. But the influencer is, of course, a member that, maybe already has a great following on social media, has their own community already behind them in that sense, and they really love your brand and community, are really active in it. And this is then really great, because if they become an ambassador for your brand, they already have a potential for so much member referral. They have so many people standing already behind them and following them. So this is, of course, really huge, and it will kind of be like PR for your community. Then there's the social butterfly, which is extroverts who really enjoy connecting with members and helping them, hosting their own events, and they kind of don't need too much of a push from your side to be like, hey, run your own events. They're kind of already, very active and, as mentioned, extroverted, so they're very happy to do it. Then we have the helpers, and the helpers are there to kind of, they're not as extroverted, but they like to, online at least, help with member questions and want other members to, feel welcome. And this is, of course, very important too, especially as, moderators for chat groups or any type of communities. The helpers are also very key. And then last but not least, we have the nerds we love as well. So the nerds are kind of, the first one to answer a question before the community manager even is like online and able to look at a question. It has already been answered by these types of community members, and we love them because, they're eager to, try new things. If you want to beta test something, for example, they're the first ones who are like, me. And they're kind of like the teacher's pet. So keep an eye out for these 4 member types, I would say, to be able to find your ambassadors for your community. And last but not least, as mentioned, I picked this one because I do think it kind of goes under sometimes. But at the end of the day, sustainable leadership, is through empathy for yourself, because I think we are a bit unique and under-discussed. And as community leaders, we are often burned out as well, because I'm sure you all know it. We wear so many hats, and to the outside world, I think sometimes it just looks like we're just answering some questions or having some online, chats and discussions with members, and that's basically all that we do. But we all know we do so much more than that, and there's so many questions also that we have, and that's why it is sometimes important to set boundaries. I am guilty of this, and I'm sure everyone here has been guilty of this at one point or another, or still is, that we are not very good in setting those boundaries, that we want to be, 24/7 available for our community. Do they have a question? Let me answer it right away, even if it's 10 p.m. at night. But it is, I think, important to carve out time for yourself and have daily habits that you set, and boundaries where you say, look, it's 6 p.m., it's 7 p.m. or something. Like, beyond that, I'm not going to answer anything until, unless it's a fire, until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. If there's something, really burning, maybe you can go to support. But other than that, let's all just, call it a night, and tomorrow morning we can talk again. I think the earlier you set this boundary to people, the better, because if you, give them the image that you are 24/7 available, and 2 years later you say, no, I have boundaries now, people will not understand because they will be used to that image of you always being available for them. And that's why, to kind of try to wrap it up, I think I have some actionable steps for each of the letters of the empathy framework that you can also take for yourself and your communities and kind of, action them. For engagement, I would say to ask, one genuine question in your community this week that sparks conversation. You might already be doing it, but maybe, revisit whatever you were posting before. Is there like a tweak to it? Is there a new way we can post, or a different kind of like a water cooler? They always are very interesting. I think water cooler questions always spark a lot of engagement and comments to kind of spice things up. As for measurement, I would say to pick one metric that really reflects the quality of connection. For example, your welcome message, to see, is it performing well? Is there something else I can do with my welcome message to make it have higher opening rates? When it comes to personalizing, again, I think those two are tied together. To try changing your welcome message or a ritual and try to personalize it more as much as possible. Then for advocates, the 4 member types I just shared with you, see if you can spot members that fit the member types that I discussed and shared with you. Do you have those people? Do you have a nerd? Do you have a helper? Do you have a social butterfly? Do you have an influencer? And if you have, as I said, all 4, write me a message. I would love to know, because I think you can tick all the boxes then, and that's very exciting. And as for T for target, kind of revisit your community page. And I think this is really important, and we don't do this often enough probably. View it as a member, not as, I work for this company or it's my community and I think it makes sense. No, or maybe if you can't get somebody else to come as a friend or a family member, to be like, what do you see when you come into this community page? Is the value proposition clear? Do I speak to my target group, or am I missing something? It's really important, I think, to, maybe every 6 months, latest a year, to revisit that. Then when it comes to health, to share a feedback survey with your community, as mentioned, on, current or upcoming subjects. You can ask for their input, you can share something with them to test, or you can just ask a general, how are you feeling? What would you like more of? I always felt that it was very important to not always go with what I think is great in content, but to ask them, what do you really need from us? Is there something we're missing? And you will be surprised by the answers that you get. And last but not least, you set one boundary that protects your energy, please, and adds to it. Maybe, you can try a new routine. You can put in a walk in the middle of your day for 20 minutes to kind of clear your head and get out there, because I know sometimes we don't get out and we're just behind our screens all day. Try to make that happen for, your sake and the quality of your life, and for your community as well, of course. And that's it for the framework. And I think, it is important to think of this. Empathy isn't just a nice to have in community management. It is a strategy. It's what turns activity into belonging. It's what turns members into advocates, and it turns leaders into sustainable role models. Everything has empathy, I think, at the heart of it, to be able to, grow a really thriving community. I'm a little bit earlier, I think, and we can have some time for questions. If you do want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram as well.
Hello. That was really amazing, Céline. And yeah, I 100% agree with you. Put yourself in the shoes of your community members, then only can you can make the right decision. 100% agreed on that. I actually had a few questions for you on the topic myself. So I was just thinking that now that AI is getting a lot more involved in communities, how do you think AI and automation is going to take over these routines, and how do you see the roles of community managers evolving with that?
This is something I get asked a lot, and I have very strong opinions. I think AI is a great tool. We all use it. I use it. It will be great for, yes, automating certain things, but you can't automate the human connection. It doesn't have the empathy, as we talked about. It doesn't have that, sense and feeling of what that person actually feels. So I think for classic questions, like if you're going to use like an AI bot or something in your community, they might be, frequently asked questions that, can be used and popped up. But I do think if it's beyond that, it doesn't get answers. There is always supposed to be a community manager or more than one person, of course, always to be there, because so many times it's not just about getting a question answered, it's about connecting, it's about we run workshops with them, we do online meetups, or as mentioned, we have DMs or one-on-ones to really understand how we can empower these people on their journey in our communities. And that's just not possible to do with AI.
Yeah. Very, very, very true. Like AI is, once again, like earlier somebody else also shared, AI is a tool which is going to be there to help us, not take over.
Exactly.
So I had like one more question for you. Like communities always have like these diverse voices, conflicting needs. So how does empathy help leaders balance inclusivity with clear direction?
Well, I think empathy, as mentioned, it is so many different conflicts and stuff, but you try to understand and empathize with those conflicts. What lies behind this conflict? There's so many times people are frustrated, or I've had communities I took over and had a lot of trolls, as I like to call them, in it. And I know this is like a nightmare for community managers, but I try to look at it from an angle of why are they trolling? What is actually making them be this way? And at the time, there were factors, for example, that I understood, which made them kind of, angry towards the company, which they didn't like. There was factors, and, I leveled with them and I said, look, I'm not here to have you shoot at me the whole time. I am here to help. What is it that really bothers you? How can I help you? And I think that really was changing their perspective to be like, it's not just somebody giving me classical robotic answers, because that's what mostly is done, right? It's like, do you have anything to complain about? Then please go into this feedback survey and put it in there. But then people get angry. So I felt you're seen, you heard, share with me what it is, how can I help you? If I can't, then I'm sorry, but I will try. Definitely changes how people perceive you, and it's empathy.
Yeah, and I understand. So I have one last question for you. Once again, coming back to AI, because that's right now that's I'm reading a lot about it. It's my favorite topic to discuss with everyone. So, like, is there any tool or any automation that you're using in terms of AI or for applying this framework?
At the moment, actually, no. Classically, I mean, like everyone, I use ChatGPT too. I use obviously other like content tools, and within like when I use Canva, for example, I use their Magic Studio tools as well. But a classical like automate all of this or an AI agent, I have actually not done so yet for community.
Great. I actually look forward to seeing you use AI
Yeah.
and integrating AI with this framework. Hearing more about it further down the line. For now, thank you for joining us. Thank you for answering my
Thank
questions,
you, Akash.
and thank you for sharing the empathy framework with us. Thank you.